way, just want to tell you the big mountains and beautiful scenic view in Utah are not the only things cooking. The Jazz played last night in preseason. They're back. And the overachievers, I'm going to give you analysis on the Jazz for the 2018-19 season. Let's jump into it. Up into the stats. Haven't done this in a while, and this is the reason for my site. Jazz last year, yeah, I don't believe it either. Eighth in the league for win percentage. It was crazy. They are a team of overachievers. Okay? That's what they bring to the table. They're a unified team that plays together with no real all stars. I would say Donovan Mitchell to me is a steroided Lewis Williams. Great scorer, can get to the lane, but he is not I don't think he'll ever be a Kevin Durant like talent at this stage from what I'm seeing. Okay, what that means is he will be an all star, no doubt. Right. What I'm trying to say is, will he be a LeBron James transcending player that can take his team all the way to the championship? I can't judge him now, but from the body of work that I see, I don't think so. I think the last person to ever do that at his size was Allen Iverson, and Derrick Rose had the potential as well, but he doesn't have that same mystique at this stage. However, I do love him, and he could change my mind on that. So, with that said, eighth in the league in win percentage. Okay, where did they excel at? To go by three-pointers made, Utah Jazz was 13th. Okay, three-point percentage. This is where I want you to take a quick peek. Utah Jazz was 12. You see, they were always in the running. They were never the greatest. They were never the worst. They were always in the middle. And I think that's something that is a living body of work for the Utah Jazz. Once again, field goal percentage. They were 13th. Again, always in the middle was the Utah Jazz. All right. Rebounds per game, they're there. Right? Defense rebounds per game. Let's go overall. Overall, rebounds per game is where you can see they're not even in the top 20, or excuse me, top 10 or top 15, and that is something they need to work on, right? You can see that there. Rebounds as a whole, they did well in the defensive rebound, but offensively, I think is where they struggle, and hence why they're at the bottom of the pack. Matter of fact, 23 in offensive rebounds. That's a problem. Turnovers, where are they at? Hopefully they're not in the middle of the pack here. Nope, they're at the bottom. So they took care of the ball pretty well. They're in the bottom of the pack with regards to control of the shot clock and keeping the ball in the right hands without turning it over. Good news there. Defensively, we look at steals. They excelled there. All right, they were a defensive focused team because they're a unit that does not have a superstar, superstar. Donovan Mitchell may be that. I still believe in Dante Exum. I think he can turn it around. He's still very young. So they have two potential players that could become something. I never want to put a player down and say he can't be. I'm just saying the body of work that I'm seeing, I don't think they have a superstar. So now let's getting into their win percentage. Again, they were eighth in the league as a whole from a winners perspective, and that's something amazing to see that they made the playoffs in the West. So I want to get there. The additions for this year, the Utah Jazz added in Grayson Allen. Okay, Grayson Allen is the rookie out of Duke, 6'5" guard. Does that take care of their rear rebounding woes? You'd be surprised. Grayson Allen was a pretty good rebounder out of the Duke faithful. So I think he's a hard nosed guy. I like his style of play. I think he brings a little bit of grit to the Utah Jazz, a little bit of nasty, and they need that, right? Alex Burks, if you look to the left of my screen, you can see them playing this team out of Australia, Perth, I think, Perth Wildcats. Alex Burke is a super scorer. Jesus Christ. He may be the best scorer on this team outside of Donovan Mitchell. And I think he has a better three ball at this point in time. Burke is a quintessential part of this team. You talked about defensive grit, defensive rebounding, needing help. Jay Crowder helps there. Consummate veteran now. He's older. And he plays a role as the glue guy for this team. Dante Exum is a bit of an enigma. What is he going to play? NBA is positionless basketball now. You throw him where you need him, and that's where we're at. Derek Favors is going to be the guy who's going to have to improve along with Rudy Gobert. They need to do the defensive rebounding work. One of the guys that really stuck out to me, obviously Donovan Mitchell, but Joe Ingles had a great year last year. He played the role of the stretch four as well as the three. What a player for them! What a season he had. Let's find the stats rolls here for Joe Ingles. 11.5 points a game, very efficient, 46% from the field goal range, and over 44% from three. Hello, how are you? That's crazy. That's crazy. This is an efficient guy, somebody you want on a team. Doesn't do anything special, but does it well and is consistent. That's what you need in the NBA. Alex Burke, as I mentioned, I think he's an all unadulterated crazy scorer. They lost Rodney Hood, right? He is gone. He was traded. Donovan Mitchell comes in as their leading scorer. Rudy Gobert comes in as second. Ricky Rubio returns. He had a little injury last year, and then they have Derek Favors that rounds out the bit. Do I think any of this will change? I think the more time you give Alec Burke, the more he'll move up this ladder. Obviously, 16 minutes a game, 7 points. You do the point per average, you can raise it up, right? If he did 16, 16, all right, 32 minutes, you double that, he probably gives you 16 points per game if he's playing the same amount of time as Ricky Rubio as far as minutes. So I like what they have here. A couple other folks. Again, I want to mention players that are impactful. I'm not saying no one else is doing anything. They lost Joe Johnson. Jonas Jerebko is another player. Royce O'Neal stays put. Jonas is with the Golden State Warriors now. Royal Nato is the point guard. I like him. He's a good change of pace guy that can come in every once in a while and give Exum and Mitchell a breather. David Stockton is a guy who hadn't seen any minutes but did very well in preseason last year. I don't know why he wasn't getting the minutes. He can be effective in again positionless basketball. Georgie Niang was injured in the summer league. I wonder if he'll return, but I think he can play the role of a maybe a backup to Joe Ingles in the right scenario, and he's an all-around player. And I want to highlight those guys. So who's on the roster right now as they continue down? Royce O'Neal continues to be there. Thabo Sefolosha was another add that brings up the defensive power, and Udo brings in another veteran who can rebound if he plays. Now, where do I see the loss? They got only these two still for the rebounding, and that's going to play an issue. Isaac Haas is a recent draft pick. I don't know what he's going to do, a big 7 footer, but they need a defensive rebounding, so Jay Crowder is going to have to step up. Tony Bradley, if he makes the team, is going to have to step up. These are guys that are going to come in maybe 5, 10 minutes and give you some rebounds, and they needed it. Let's jump into some other statistics as we look overall wins, losses. Again, overall 104 points per game. That's huge. I couldn't believe it. With the talent they had, again, they're overachieving right now. We talked about the win percentage. Where they like to be at, they like to be home, right? 28 and 13 at home. They killed it. Great fans, great atmosphere. When they're on the road, they need a lot of freaking help. 20 to 21, almost 50% on the road. That's not so good. You gotta be angry on the road, man. You gotta want to hurt somebody, right? You want to hurt the fans. You want to get them angry. That's the point of the game at some point. I used to love that playing on the road. They're not a good road team. That's what they need to work on. Rebounding, playing on the road. So how can they improve that? Right now, what we see from this roster, scoring wise, they have Donovan Mitchell as the go-to. Who's going to have to step up? Are they going to make the playoffs? I'm scared this year for the Utah Jazz. My analysis tells me that Utah's Jazz are going to have a lot of trouble this year making the playoffs. It is even tighter in the West. Who do I see moving up? The Lakers moving up. I see Dallas moving up. I see Sacramento possibly making a late night move, and Denver definitely, I think they're going to move into the game. With all that said, it's kind of scary for Utah, but they are an overachieving team and they are a team. So you have to keep that in mind. They're kind of like Portland Trailblazers for what they had. They only had the two guards and they were just overachievers. So my pick for them, I hate to say, I think they're out of the playoffs this year from going in to getting out. The West is very tight and everyone has improved. The Utah Jazz have added some grit, some nasty, But is it enough? Is the team enough to overcome the lack of talent in certain areas? And the lack of talent comes in the word of depth. I don't like the depth behind going behind Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert for your entireties. For your entire rebounding defensive team is Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors. You're going to have Jay Crowder overworking himself trying to help with the power forward position. I don't know what Tony Bradley can bring to the table. Cephalosha is going to overwork himself. Udo was a high draft pick, but never produced it at that level. I guess he can in spots if you give him minutes. They need backup help here at the power forward and center position. The guard position, I think they have solidified. I think they're strong enough. They let these guys grow. It's now time for Exum to turn it on. It is now time for Alec Burke to turn it on as well. They have just enough to maybe make it in the first round and then be exited. If this team wants to go further, I highly suggest they look at a draft pick. They may need to tank. They may need to break some things up here. They may need to let go of Favors, let go of a couple of players, maybe even XM as well, who I like, to make things happen. I think Ricky Rubio is cheap right now, so you don't let him go. And Slow Mo does his job, right? He makes everyone better. I think you keep him, but he needs more talent so he can showcase himself. I think he has a lot of 3-point help, but they don't have enough. So guards they have enough to let go. The trade needs to be for some athletic small forwards or power forwards. And at this time, I don't see that. So my pick for the Jazz, ninth or 10th spot in the West, the crowded Wild Wild West. And I see Donovan Mitchell continuing to improve, may get another point or two per average this year with the Utah Jazz. All right, Off Work Sports with the data. We're out. Peace. This was last night too, guys. So check that out and check out MLG highlights. Peace.